Hey everyone, I just got back from SIGGRAPH from Los Angeles. I'm back home in Vancouver and I'm just now decompressing here, going through all of the notes and all of the information we gathered from the show. It was an amazing session and it only really happened because so many great people got together. Now, before I get to the thank yous, I'm going to have to tell you something that I never really thought I'd be saying in the 10 years that I've been doing these birds of a feather and organizing all these sessions. And I'll be honest, by the end of this video, you might think that I'm a little crazier off my rocker, if you don't already. But we're going to get there. Stick with me. First, there were all the people that made this year unforgettable. It was a real group effort. Now, some of you may have noticed that the room this year was just a little bit smaller, and SIGGRAPH itself was much smaller. But no matter how big or small SIGGRAPH gets, these same core industry veterans, they all come, all these infrastructure, pipelines, CTOs. It was a real great turnout. And you might ask yourself, why do all these people come? Like, what's the value of these sessions? What have they cracked that are making everybody come year after year, even during the slow years? So hold that thought, and I'm going to explain that in just a second. But as far as the question, was it a slow year? Yeah, it was a little smaller on the floor, but our turnout was every bit as it always is. All the same people who would rather be there in those sessions in those hot little sweaty rooms than being out there on the floor or anywhere else in the show. And for those of you who showed up, you brought it. Thank you. These are some lively sessions, and thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And none of it really would have happened without all the volunteers, the folks from the Pipeline Conference, the Digital Production Pipeline Association. They all get together with all the other studio heads, and we put all the planning together into one room so that everyone could sit down for one combined Birds of a Feather session from 9 to 4:30 all in one day. The room, the PA, the projector, the schedule, really, it was all up to them. The whole Megillah, even Beards of a Feather, which is the party that they put together afterwards for everybody who's attended all day. No one realizes how they quietly make all the magic happen in the background, and then myself and all of you get to just show up that day and start talking shop. So thanks to those volunteers, truly. But the room is just the room. It's those people out in the crowd that help make it happen, but especially, too, it's those folks up front, those folks that come up and co-moderate and bring what they know to the floor. So I want to thank the co-moderators that joined me up there and made these sessions what they were. You folks were a big part of why people came and got value. You shared your insights, you shared your studio's experience, and everyone else gets to learn from that. And that's what we love about the Birds of a Feather sessions. And here's what made this year different. With all the craziness going on with procurement and all that, we zoomed out a bit. We didn't just geek out on the deep tech and which versions are people using and phasing out and upgrading to this. We kind of started talking about what's keeping a lot of these technology decision makers up at night in 2026. The procurement and the pricing challenges that everyone's wrestling with. How to walk into your CFO's office and your CEO's office and try to solve these problems together. I went into a little bit of a deep dive into the real CapEx versus OpEx conversations and what to know about that if you're going to talk about procurement with your CFO and leadership, how to get what you need. And there's this big shift happening in industry right now where traditionally the biggest piece of the pie has been labor costs. For most of these studios, that's the biggest piece of the pie. And infrastructure costs was a smaller piece. But slowly, we're seeing infrastructure start to overtake or get really close to labor, sometimes surpassing it. So you're seeing all these increased costs in servers, the power, the cooling. AI is hitting our industry from both sides. AI is reshaping what we need to do internally inside all of these studios. And at the same time, AI is squeezing the external supply chain, making it harder to do that very thing. And that's assuming you can even get your hands on the hardware to do it. So I helped organize 3 different talks this year: render farming, storage, and virtual desktop infrastructure, or VDI. That's basically the remote desktop technology that makes it so everyone can work from home. And we like to have for each of these one very honest and very current conversation. First, render farming. Big thank you to Jeff Rockland. He's the head of systems and operations for North America at Framestore. This guy's got decades of experience building infrastructure for the industry. and he brought every bit of that knowledge to share with everyone. Jeff, I really want to thank you. And some of the things that we ended up talking about during this conversation, of course, the headline was procurement. How do I get this stuff? Hardware is up to 3 or 4 times the cost of what it was 2 years ago. The lead times have gone sideways. Sometimes people are cutting a purchase order, they're making the order, and then the vendor won't even give them a delivery date. Sometimes the vendor will actually reprice it or just tell them, sorry, we can't actually deliver that at all, and just cancel the order. And it's in part, because AI is soaking up a lot of that supply and creating all that pressure. The game has changed. The shops that are winning right now are the ones that are able to get their own, metal, their own servers, and really keep them busy 24/7. And of course, using the cloud for burst only when they need to, but using it, indeed they do. And we also saw a lot of people talking about stopping retiring old gear. So a lot of people are going to be keeping their render gear. It's too hard to get new gear, so the threshold has been lowered for getting rid of the old gear. Keep it longer, run it longer is going to be sort of the word of the day. Again, we talked about trying to speak your CFO's language with CapEx versus OpEx, because they're not really buying servers. And this was something I talked about in all of the talks, but you're not trying to get them to buy servers. They're not buying servers. They're buying business outcomes. So you need to speak in those terms. I personally emphasized how much you do not want to try to wait for the AI bubble to pop before you try to buy or expand your infrastructure. Unfortunately, if there's any kind of AI bubble pop, that's going to make money harder to get, meaning financing is going to become more expensive. Hardware is not really going to get cheaper. It just might plateau. And so these were the kind of things we were talking about in that session. And as a reminder, I will be publishing all of the notes, so stay tuned to see the links to these notes so you can get the full summary of everything we discussed about. That was just the tip of the iceberg. But that wasn't the only session. We, of course, had later that day studio storage. And there I had some great co-moderators, including Michele Ciolette. He's the group CTO from Cinesite out of the UK, and he steers their technology across all their studios in London, Munich, Mumbai, Montreal, Vancouver, and it was the perfect voice for a multi-site storage conversation. And I also had the pleasure of once again having Amandeep Singh. He's the lead systems and storage architect for Pixar Animation Studios. He owns the storage at the sharp end of Pixar's render platforms. He's co-led these sessions before. He actually was with me a couple of years ago. He's super on it. And both these guys, Michele and Amandeep, I want to thank you guys for bringing it to the session, sharing all of your knowledge. We had the big story of the multi-site dream finally coming true. As Michele was pointing out, he could have any artist at any time, any shot, anywhere, using a global namespace-like technology, which in this case was Cumulo's Cloud Data Fabric, and that allows them to have basically files around the world and have shots done around the world. And of course, you have to weigh that against vendor lock-in, and we talked about that a bit. We talked about all the crazy pricing with flash pricing, and how much it's going to be important to have file discipline, storage discipline, tightening your data lifecycle, making sure that my advice always is having sort of restore safety nets in place so people can get back their snapshots or maybe get back their deletions from tape for a few months. And creating that cushion allows your artist pool to really get pretty aggressive with removing files and deleting and making space. And that's going to be a big part of dealing with this procurement constraint, is making do with what you got a little bit more sometimes, and discipline's the way to go. Maybe the use of AI to deal with cleaning and deleting data a little more intelligently, a little more strategically. Maybe that's going to come up here and help in the coming year too. People were talking about that. And Amandeep, he pretty much strengthened and showed how much they were ahead of the curve and actually bought their flash before this all went crazy. And it shows the basic concept that the best time to invest in your storage was yesterday. The second best time to invest in your storage is today. And, well, you can always do it tomorrow, but it's going to cost more. Again, stay tuned for those links. And for the second year in a row, we did virtual desktop infrastructure, VDI. And for the second year in a row, Stephen Winters joined me. He is the director of IT for North America at Cinesite. He was back again, sharp as ever. Thank you, Stephen. You really rocked. You really brought it. And because you've been coming straight off the front lines of the production infrastructure in Montreal, you were able to show some hands-on knowledge as to what it's like to deploy VDI realistically in a studio today with Proxmox and all of that. And a big part of our secret sauce was Jimmy Rotella. Thank you, Jimmy. He came all the way out from Chicago just for this. He is one of the masters of vGPU. He actually is a senior solutions architect at NVIDIA. And this guy is Mr. vGPU. He knows everything about the whole VWS kind of environment, multi-instance GPUs. This guy knows everything. He has decades of experience himself. I want to thank both Stephen and Jimmy again for really making this one of the most intense of the three in total output. Like, the notes were simply the longest out of this one. It was rapid fire, and really it was partly just group therapy for everybody, dealing with the HP Anywhere end of life kind of issues that have been going on. Nearly everyone in the room raised their hand saying they were being affected by that end of life decision for the HP Anywhere software package. Proxmox, again, is the predominant deployed solution that's spreading across the land, although there were a lot of other options, and those will be in the notes as well. It was a Linux heavy room, so the solutions did lean a little towards Linux. And of course, the star of the show was NVIDIA's multi-instance GPU technology, which I'm constantly trying to make sure people are using. If they've got a RTX 6000 Blackwell card, or even one of the RTX 4500 server edition cards, these allow you to section up the card into discrete little areas that you can run vGPU sessions on. It treats each little section like it's own card, and it just gives you so much versatility and the ability to control workflows so they don't interfere with each other on the card. It lended itself to this idea that increasingly these servers are going to be carrying AI workloads, GPU rendering workloads, and of course VDI workloads, which is the whole reason we were there to talk about. We're offering at Studio Cloud, and what a lot of people are trying to kind of build are these one-size-fit-all boxes. And so you can have a dual-purpose box or a multi-purpose box where it's an artist workstation during the day, it's a render AI node at night, and even during the day using MIG, you might be able to mix those workloads together. The reality is people don't know what the AI workloads are going to be in their studio in 2 years from now. And so these VDI solutions allow them to also have a sort of a future proof against their AI pipelines that they don't even know are going to exist yet. But we can tell you, with an RTX 6000 Blackwell server edition card, there's no card on the market that's going to better position you for this kind of flexibility than those cards. So you do know you're buying the best of breed. So again, a lot of talk about how to justify your ask up to your CFO to deal with procurement. With prices are not going to be easing up, and a lot of folks, I think, agreed that it will not be happening into 27 and 28. And really, when do prices ever go down? Prices generally just flatline. We're not going to see a big drop anytime soon. So there were 3 talks. We had 5 credible co-moderators joining me. And again, there's this announcement, right, that I was going to make here, that after 10 years of being part of the Birds of a Feather and organizing Birds of a Feather across multiple different subjects, next year in Anaheim, I'm not going to be there. For the first time in 10 years, I'm not going to be in the front of the room. I'm not going to be there, because while you are all getting your badges and standing in line, there'll be no badges, no lines, no projectors, no vendor booths. It's just going to be me, my truck, my off-road trailer, and I'm heading north, way north, like 5,000 miles north, 8,000 kilometers. 1,000 of those kilometers are going to be unpaved, middle of the nowhere dirt road. And I'm going all the way up to Tuktoyaktuk in the Northwest Territory, where the land finally runs out and the Arctic Ocean begins. Yes, I'm going on my bucket list RV trip all the way to the Arctic Ocean. Before anyone worries, I'm not going to be completely off the grid. I still have Starlink, so I'll still be staying connected to the world. In fact, if we ever found a way to run these sessions hybrid, or someone wanted to pipe me in, who knows? Maybe I could beam in for one of these sessions from the middle of the Yukon on the side of the road. Just me, mosquitoes, bears, and you. So this just might be my goodbye, my friends, after 10 years. What a run. But it's not going to work out exactly like that. I'm still going to be helping organize those sessions next year. I'm going to make sure they're a little bit more of a tech deep dive next year. Get you lots of the familiar faces you're used to seeing up there and maybe some new ones. I'll make sure that that room is in phenomenal hands. Again, going deeper into a tech deep dive in all 3 of the subjects next year. So I do encourage you to show up in Anaheim, show up to the sessions next year. And then in 2028, you're all coming up to my house. SIGGRAPH 2028 is in Vancouver. That's where I'm at. I'm going to be doing at least these 3. I might be doing a little more. I usually throw in a 4th one when it's in my hometown. And I'm just now finishing up the summaries for all 3 of those shows. I will be posting these summaries on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on the Cup of Joe VFX channel. And you can always just email me at cupofjoevfx@gmail.com. That's cupofjoevfx@gmail.com, and say, hey, please send me the link when they're up, and I'll make sure to send all of you the link. Give me just a little more time to put the last of that information together. And of course, if you want to follow my crazy adventures in my RV going up to the Arctic, you can do so on my other YouTube channel, which is RVing with Joe. I try to travel all over North America as much as I can. That Starlink sure does make it easier to work remotely. So check it out. I'll see you down the road. I hope everyone who went to SIGGRAPH enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoy Anaheim next year. I'll see you in Vancouver. Take care of yourself.
Rolling out in my Ember, chasing sunsets down the line. Every mile's an adventure, every stop a brand new sign. Built to